So, a couple of weeks ago, I posted a YouTube short showcasing the features of my new vehicle. I showed the new engine and I showed the steering wheel, and I asked you guys, what do you think it was? To see if you can guess it. I got a lot of crazy answers, and I actually got three that was the correct answer. I got Rangers. Some people actually thought it was a Ranger, a transverse 1.8 engine, and you guys thought it was a Ranger, but you guys pretty much dropped the ball on that one. But three of you actually did get it correct. And with all that said and done, it's time for the big reveal. So let me remove all these bed sheets, and you guys will see what this is. Say hello to my new 1994 Ford Escort GT. So this is what the last few weeks has been leading up to. I traded my Civic in for this 1994 Ford Escort GT in electric current red. So here's the story of how I ended up getting this car. I found it on Facebook Marketplace about 4 weeks ago whenever they posted it. I was like, man, a Ford Escort GT. This is the type of car that I wanted for the longest time. I originally wanted a car that was as close to the Miata as possible. And be honest, this is about as close to a hot hatchback Miata that you can get. It even comes with a Miata engine. So 2 weeks later, after he posted it, I saw that he still had it on Marketplace, and I didn't want to pay the money that he wanted for it. He wanted $4,500 for it, and while that's not crazy amount of money in today's climate, it is a little bit more than what I had at the time. So I asked him, "Are you entertaining trades?" He said yes. I sent him pictures of the Civic. I asked him how this car was, and we planned to meet up 2 weeks later because I had to go to the speed tour and I couldn't meet up then. But the week after the speed tour, we met up. He drove the Civic. I drove this, and the trade was done. Fast forward a week later, after I got this car, I took it to the shop, had it had some things taken care of, and now it's back. And I was able to get it registered with the red license plate, which is really is the cherry on top for me. So let's walk around and talk about this car. As I said, it's a 1994 Ford Escort GT. Excuse the wind, it's really windy right now because we got the Arctic blast coming through. But this is my 1994 Ford Escort GT in the electric current red. It's got a pretty nice interior. I actually just found out that it has almost 350,000 miles, which, be honest with you, this thing did not feel like it had that many miles. This thing's actually been driving great. I got it, it was kind of filthy when I got it from the previous owner, and I cleaned it up. It came with these Bryant seats. I doubt they're real, but they actually fit the car really nicely. And you know, this is the precursor to the Ford Focus SVT and the Ford Focus ST. So it actually matches this car very well. They're not Recaros, but it actually does look factory. And the back seats are actually in really good condition as well. I actually sat in them earlier before making this video to see how much room it is, and it's actually a lot of room. So let's go check out the engine, because it is actually a really nice engine. Okay, I had to cut because the wind just got crazy out of nowhere. But let's check out this engine. This engine is the 1.8 liter BP engine from the Mazda MX-5. 16 valve twin cam. And it makes 127 horsepower and a little over 100 foot-pounds of torque. This is the exact engine from the NA8 Miata, and this thing's actually really quick, especially compared to the Civic. Now, you look underneath the hood here, and you really cannot tell that this thing has 350,000 miles on it. It's got this little intake cone that the previous owner put on there, but everything else is pretty clean. Now, I have the service records for this vehicle, and I'll tell you the truth, whoever owned this car first took a lot of care of it. They have service records from 1994 to 2020, but I'm going to show you guys that later. The first thing I did to it was, as soon as I got home, I put a new battery in it because it had an old battery from like 21. And if you guys know, batteries do not last that long anymore. But this thing is actually really nice. New plugs back in like, I think 2020 was the last time I got plugs. The distributor cap. And everything's just been good. I also had some new belts put on there. It was squealing when I first got it. That's one of the reasons why it was in the shop. But this thing's been great. This thing's been fun to drive. It's got some issues that need to be taken care of, but the body is pretty much straight. It's got that issue with the bumper, but in all honesty, I kind of like the way it looks from afar. The black accent kind of adds a bit of a sporty touch to it. But everyone talks about these asymmetrical grills on these things. It is the most rad part of this car. But the body is pretty well. This car was repainted back in like 2019. I would like to get some of these faded parts buffed up. Maybe get some of that wipeable clear coat on here. But this thing's great. Sunroof works great as well. But the body's pretty much good. The side skirts are a little loose. I have to find out what I need to do with that. But everything's great. Back looks good. Like, there really isn't that much wrong with the body. The body is definitely in better shape than what the Civic was when I first got it. And check this out. As I said, this is a hot hatchback from the 90s. So check this out. The hatch lifts up and without any issues. It's got some good struts on it, and it still had the cargo cover. Now, it has some oversized like speaker hardware in here. Right now they're loose. I got some speaker covers coming in, so I wasn't able to close this, but look at all this space. This thing's gonna be a lot more practical than the Civic, especially since it's got some pretty good back seats in there. So this thing actually has some pretty good performance for when it first came out in 1991. While most hot hatches were doing 0 to 60 in around 9 seconds, this did it in 8.3. That's really impressive. So this car does have 127 horsepower, and it weighs a smidge over 2,300 pounds. It weighs the same as the Civic, while making about 30 more horsepower, almost more than what that base model Civic does. And it has disc brakes all around. So this thing actually stops a lot better than what the Civic did. Now, let's go inside, because this car is actually pretty loaded compared to what the Civic is. It has cruise control. It doesn't work. But it also has crank windows, which in all honesty, I kind of like. And it has a power sunroof. I was actually really surprised to find out that this sunroof actually doesn't leak. I've only had one old car with a sunroof, and it was my 98 Acura Integra, and the sunroof flew off. So that's a funny story from back in my poor person days. But yeah, this thing's got a pretty good interior. I do need to fix this door handle. And one thing I do need to fix too, this is probably the biggest issue, is the gear shifter. It's pretty sloppy. Now, it's not as bad as what it was when I first got it. It was actually really bad. This is pretty much what it was like. The bushings couldn't be replaced on all of them, so I need to get a new linkage because of the way Ford designed it. But it made it a lot better than what it was, because it was going all the way out to the all the way out here, but towards the left side as well. So it tightened it up towards first and second, but it's still pretty sloppy for fifth and reverse. So I got a new, I got the shop ordering a new shift linkage. I'm just going to drive it around until it gets here. And I also need to get a new stereo. I have the faceplate inside. I was going to see if I can try to buy a new one, but I actually got a new radio in general just coming in. But other than that, everything's good. Headliner's crap, but so was the Civic's headliner. So I just took all the crap that was dangling inside off. So I didn't, because I really didn't care. And I also need to get a new sun visor for the driver's side. But other than that, interior is just about perfect. It cleaned up really nice. This thing was actually kind of filthy when I first got it. Temperature gauge is kind of weird on this thing too. I need to see what's going on with it, but it's not overheating, thankfully. So, just like the rear, this also got some oversized speakers in the front. And because of that, I can't let the window all the way down. I thought that was just the design of it, and I actually did some research on the forums, and it turns out if the speakers are too big, they're going to block the window from going all the way down. But that's not too much of a problem for me, because I actually did take out the speaker, which is why that bolt is missing there. They actually drilled into the damn door part, which I guess is whatever. They don't look too out of place, but the speakers look really powerful. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it sounds once I put this new stereo in there. Hopefully it actually works, and hopefully it's not something to do with the harness or the power. So we'll see what happens there. But I want to show you guys the service records, because this thing also has the original service manual and the original owner's manual as well. And before we get to the service manual, I want to show you guys the previous owner also had this pretty cool looking air freshener of this vehicle. I doubt it's the best one exactly, because it's got some fancy wheels on there. They kind of like JNCs, but they're not. But that's pretty rad, I'm not going to lie. That'd be pretty cool to just have in car shows. I do plan on taking this to a lot of Cars and Coffee. So let's get ready to show you what's going on. This thing has 2 different maintenance schedule books. This is the original one, and they didn't fill out any of these right here. But the previous owner, who's had this car since 1994. So, actually no, they bought this in 95. I take that back. So pretty much while I'm not even born yet, 3 years until I'm born, they bought this car. So they bought this in 95, and they had their first oil change at 36, 34. And they are pretty meticulous with these oil changes every 3,000 miles. And they replaced a lot of stuff. Inspect the coolant system, inspect the brake pads, air filters. They continued to do all the oil changes. They replaced the air filter around 17,000 miles, 2,400. They replaced the wiper blades at 27,000 in 1997. I still wasn't born yet. They did the 30,000 mile service. They did all this. They replaced the fuel filter. All around 13,000, 15 miles. At 33,000 miles, they did the oil change as well. They did a coolant flush at 36,000. Hey, here's the first service after I was born. There's another oil change. They replaced the wipers again. And they replaced the distributor cap and rotor. They did a tune-up on it at 48,260. Some more service records. They were really good about changing the oil on time on this thing. Whoever had this car before really loved this dang thing. They did all this at 59,000 miles. They replaced the clutch. They changed the transmission fluid. Replaced the wipers and the valve cover gasket. Which is one thing I need to do on this thing. The valve covers started leaking. And I also do plan on doing a transmission fluid change as well. I did it on the Miata not too long ago. They replaced the fuel filter and the air filter at 72,000. They did another tune-up at 81,000 miles. Replaced the air filter. They replaced the intake hose and the catalytic converter. They did another coolant flush at 84,000 miles. Wiper blades at 82,000. Hey, a little bit after 9/11, huh? So they did check engine oil and check anything else. Got new tires at 93,000. This is a big one. They replaced the distributor cap, which is kind of crazy that it already went bad in like a couple of years. Spark plugs, wires as well. They replaced the brakes and the rotors. Rotated tires. They kept on with those consistent oil changes. They took a lot of care of this car. It probably explains why the engine bay looks so clean for a car with 300,000 miles on it. Rotated tires, some more oil changes. Some new coolant flushes again. They replaced the alternator and the power steering belts. Replaced the timing belt. And this was around 121. I remember reading this too. They had replaced the timing belt before, but I don't remember. And of course, Ford didn't think that this car would last very long. I mean, look at it. It has a 5-digit odometer, which kind of confused me on how many miles this thing has. But it continues. Consistent oil changes. Looks like oil change on this thing was every 3,000 miles. Whoever had this car really, really cared about it. Did a STP oil treatment. 07. Another tune-up with some new brake pads, tie rod ends. New suspension all around, it looks like. New water pump. Another timing belt at 157. 175. New axles. Valve cover gasket again. Transmission seals, fuel filter, and another tune-up. Thermostat at 177. Wipers at 179. Another tune-up at 186. Some oil changes. Oil change. Every 3,000 miles. They're lacking a little bit on this one. This one's almost 3,000 miles. 4,000 miles I meant. New distributor. Another radiator flush. Valve cover gasket. And this book ends at 239,000, which was close to how many miles I thought was originally on here. I thought it was going to be 148,000 because of how it looks and how it drives. Maybe 248,000 because of how old the car is. And I can't expect it. If someone took care of this thing really good, it would drive that much. It would drive that good because the Civic was also at 246,000 miles. And that thing drives really good. So everything continues on here. They end up having to get another one. This is for a 1995 Escort. They didn't mark on any of these. So everything's continued on page 40. On June 5th, 264,000 miles. I think this ended, the other one ended around, Let's see. That's the owner's manual. Okay, and at 239,000 miles. It continues on page 40 at 264,000. It was an oil change, tire rotation. A little bit less than 4,000 miles later, 268, oil change, tire rotation. And when I saw all this, it was like, oh, so this thing has over 300,000 miles. More oil changes, tire rotations, wheel bearings, which I'm glad they did because wheel bearings suck on front wheel drive cars. Wheel bearings, steering bushings, rotors, and yet another tune-up. Some more oil changes. A whole rack and pinion. Wow. That's one thing I actually really need to do on the Civic. New axle seals, battery, which they end up getting another battery around like 21. Oil change, 2019 and 2018. New tires, new windshield, new thermostat, coolant temp sensor, a new rear view mirror. Yet another tune-up, and this is where they painted the car. Fuel filter, valve cover gasket, coil pack, directional switch. I don't know what that is. Fuel pump relay, ignition switch. Some new struts, rotors, pads, and calipers, and an oil change. And this is the last thing that was put into the service records. So yeah, whoever owned this car back in the day took a lot of care of it. They probably spent more than what the car is actually worth now in maintenance items over the over 30 years that this thing has been on the road. So yeah, it's crazy. I'm really happy with this trade. I do plan on doing some things. I do want to get some new wheels. As I say, I got the shift linkage on the way, new stereo, new speaker covers on the way as well. And I think this thing's going to be a pretty fun daily driver. My goal is to get this thing to as high a mileage as I can. I've put about 140 miles on it so far, and I hadn't had any trouble. Heat works, and the AC still works too, so that's actually pretty cool. I've been wanting a hot hatchback from the 90s for the longest time, and to be honest, Mazda engineering is some of my favorite engineering, and well, I got it. This is pretty much a Mazda MX 323 with Ford badging. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this purchase, with this trade. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I've enjoyed planning it. I've been waiting on getting this car back from the shop to make it, and I'll show you guys a driving video after everything's said and done. So if you guys want to see some more content on this Escort or the Miata, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.